Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hi. Several months ago, when Pete asked me to give the opening keynote for this conference, I began with the usual answer that I try and give in business, and that is, I start with yes. And then I work my way backwards and figure out how I'm going to do it. Do any of you guys work this way? It's actually a terrific guideline when trying to create a great guest experience. If you start with the guest requests in your mind and the thought of yes, and then within reason, of course, because their requests are not always reasonable, but work your way backwards to try and figure out how you can accommodate them. So now my job today is to work backwards from the yes that I gave many months ago and figure out some brilliant words to motivate, inspire, and I think I'm supposed to entertain you a little bit too. Sounds like a big job, and it feels like it. So I have to be honest, I'm very humbled. I'm also nervous. However, I like challenges, and I'm really glad to be here today. So in thinking about it, it actually is kind of funny to be doing this for such an esteemed group, and that's part of what makes me so humbled, because as entrepreneurs, you guys motivate, inspire, and entertain me on a daily basis. So in thinking about why did Pete ask me to do this, I realized that Pete realized that I've been around long enough that I can predict the future. Yep. What do I mean by this? Well, no matter how studious you were when you were younger, I predict that you're going to learn more useful information in the next 2 days, less than 48 hours, than you thought you learned in 4 years in high school. So this got me thinking a bit about high school and what I learned in high school and what was important to me when I was there. And I went to High Point High School, Beltsville, Maryland, in the 70s. Any chance any of you guys did? Well, there is an innkeeper that did, but he's not here today. He owns the Wayside Inn in Ellicott City, Maryland, so thought I would ask. But if you ask anybody that did go to High Point more than 40 years ago or 40-some years ago, what the 10 most important words were that our principal, Frank Tracy, drilled in our heads, they would not only be able to tell you those words today, but they would probably share with you some sort of inspirational story as to what these words have meant to them as they've gone through their lives. And these words have meant a lot to me over about 40 years. And I think that they apply to innkeeping. I think they apply to this conference. And I think they apply to all of us in our everyday life. So I'm going to share those words with you. Are you ready?
Yes.
If it is to be, it is up to me. 10 simple words, right? However, if you carry them with you throughout this conference and throughout innkeeping and everywhere that you go, I think that you're going to get more out of this conference and be able to take more back to the inn than you ever thought was imaginable. So in making sure that you guys really understand and grasp the opportunities that are here today, I want to be sure that you take me seriously, because after all, my job is to inspire and to motivate you. So I've decided to structure our discussion today as a commencement address, because I can predict the future. So will you give me a moment?
All right, Mary.
This might take a little longer than the music, but I didn't want to bore you too much. But I gotta get it right. I don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Anybody who's heard me speak before knows I say that a lot. So let me get this on right. Make sure my tassel's good.
Is that the original cap?
Is that a real question? It's marketing, my dear. As for our commencement address, I know this conference will prepare you and send you out in the world as a better innkeeper, no matter what stage of innkeeping you are at. But just attending this conference alone will not make you a better innkeeper. If it is to be, it is up to each and every one of you. It starts here, and it starts now. I challenge you to make the commitment to make this happen. How are we going to do this? If you agree with these 10 words, I hope you will say them with me. If it is to be, it's up to me. Thank you. Okay, we're doing good so far. So I ask you guys to sit in groups for a reason. And in high school, you might not have followed all of the rules, and that's okay there. But the reason I asked you to sit in groups here is I'm kind of having you sit by class. We have our freshmen, which are aspiring innkeepers. You guys are in group 1. We welcome you to the industry. It's a wonderful industry. It's a hard industry, but more than that, it's a wonderful industry. We have our sophomores. You guys have been innkeepers for 1 to 3 years, and you're doing great, and we're glad that you're here. Juniors, you've been innkeepers from 4 to 10 years. And yes, you guessed it, seniors, we really look up to you. You guys have done this for 10 or more years, and I heard way more than 10 years from some people as they were sitting down. So we're glad that you're here. We look up to you. And you guys have a lot to learn from each other. But what you're going to find at this conference might be what I found in high school with advanced math and physics. A lot of it was over my head. I was overwhelmed. Frankly, sometimes it was just too much information. How many of you attended Local U yesterday? Okay. There was a lot of information there. Did you understand everything that you heard? No. Absolutely not. But what you did is you learned a little bit more and a little bit more of a foundation. So the next time you have a conversation, whether it's about, there was part of the talk for those of you that weren't there about what goes into a good website. You're going to be able to take that conversation just a little bit further. Or the articles that you read on website design, you'll take it a little bit further. Same thing with Google Analytics. Same thing with Google Places. Because what's important to remember is that knowledge builds upon itself. And what happens too often at these conferences is that because of how much information you get, everybody, if you attended Local U, you've already started your to-do list. But if you didn't, you're going to have a huge, or the Aspiring Innkeeper session, you're going to have a huge to-do list by the time you leave here. And I predict, because I can predict the future, exactly what will happen. Many times, innkeepers come to me at my booth on the last day. Oh my God, I got to get back to the inn, and I've got a wedding, but so-and-so says I have to do Facebook, and this one says I have to do Pinterest, and then I have to claim my local listing, and I don't know, I just don't know what to do. And they just become so overwhelmed that I can almost picture them looking somewhat like this. How many of you felt like this before you came to the conference? Bet you're looking forward to Tuesday afternoon, okay? But we are, rather than being overwhelmed by our to-do list, because that doesn't get anything done on the list, I hope that you will just be glad for the knowledge that you get, but also be super glad for the fact that we're in an industry where there is this much knowledge. I've been to numerous conferences where people come up to my booth and I won't call them innkeepers. They're business owners. They own properties with 99 or 150 rooms. And they come to our conferences because there's nothing like that for them in their industry. So if any of you guys snuck in here, it's okay. We have more than enough knowledge to go around. Conferences are also fun. It's a place to learn, but they're fun. And what I like the best about conferences is the same thing that I like the best about high school. And for those of you that know me, I bet you can guess that it was socializing. Over here, we're going to call it a grown-up word. We're going to call it networking. And that's a really important thing as to what you get out of conferences. I spoke with Mary at the Asa Klein House, and she talked about the importance of conferences because as innkeepers, you do so much on your own. Innkeeping is a solitary activity, but yet when you come to conferences, she has been an innkeeper for, I want to get this right, 16 years, and she has been to each and every one. She's been to all 7 Mid-Atlantic innkeeping conferences, and she's here today because she knows that the networking as well as the knowledge is important, and it keeps growing on itself. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to do some networking. I've asked you to sit by groups. Many of you guys know each other, but there must be someone somewhere close to you that you don't know, and everything you had to do in high school wasn't always comfortable, and I only going to make you take 5 minutes, but I want you to start with the networking, and that is to take 5 minutes and just turn to someone that you don't know, tell them what you hope to get out of the conference, the biggest challenge as you see in terms of innkeeping, and maybe they have some suggestions, or as you listen to what their challenge is, maybe you have some ideas for them. But before we do this, because it probably seems silly to you guys, but I really want you to start networking. We are not in high school, no matter how much I'm wearing this silly hat or we're talking about it. So please don't use the time to admire someone's outfit or to talk about the weather. So, go ahead, and I'm serious because this is an important part of conferencing. Look for somebody that you don't know, and I promise just 5 minutes, and just introduce yourself. Vendors can introduce themselves, and maybe teach somebody a little and I hope you guys will continue to network. Devil! Time! But I don't ever want to stop networking. How many of you guys, okay, so maybe this was a good exercise, and I hope you don't stop with the networking or socializing. How many people exchange business cards or contact information? Excellent. But for those of you that didn't, pull out at any moment and any time, because everybody is either here a source of maybe someone that you can go to later and bounce ideas off of. They could even be a source of referrals, because when they have guests staying with them who then are traveling to your area, now they can recommend your inn. So business cards and exchanging cards, that's immediately what you want to do everywhere. Not just here, but everywhere, because everybody is either someone who can be a resource to you or a referral for you. So always remember that. It's hard in this setting, but I want to use that as an example. You know, and networking never stops. Dina from Antoinette's Guest House has been an innkeeper for 22 years. Deanna, I'm sorry, 22 years. And she's been to 3 Mid-Atlantic innkeeping conferences. And you know what her only regret is that she didn't attend more conferences. She runs her business, even though it's a guest house, in such a way that everything is like running a B&B except breakfast. And she didn't realize how much she could learn about technology, marketing, budgeting, and of course networking at conferences. So be glad that you're here and don't have the regret that you didn't attend more conferences, because you're here now. And in terms of the networking, take a moment and look at the other groups, and identify someone that you don't know, which is probably very possible because of the fact that you're at different stages in terms of innkeeping. But you have a lot to learn from each other. Freshmen are aspiring innkeepers. You, of course, are looking probably at someone who's in the sophomore group. While they're only one step ahead of you, it's a big step. They've gone through financing, they've served breakfast, they've dealt with good guests, they've dealt with bad guests, they've dealt with good reviews, they've dealt with bad reviews. It seems like only one step, but it's a big step. But it's not that long ago that they were aspiring innkeepers. Sophomores, you of course look to the juniors because they're one step ahead of you. But at this point in innkeeping, you're probably wondering how at times anybody can have the stamina or the energy to do this for 10 or more years. So I would also be looking to the seniors because they have a lot of knowledge to share with you. Juniors, at this point in time in any career, especially one that is so labor and intensive of all that you give, it's possible that you're approaching burnout. Or completely the opposite. You could be looking to take your business to the next level, to the next stage. So by speaking with newer innkeepers, their fresh ideas can help to motivate you, and also not only through the burnout periods and maybe re-energize you at some of these conferences, as well as the seniors who've probably been through this stage. But also in speaking with the vendors in the exhibit hall, you're going to find new ideas, and fresh things to be doing, whether it's to avoid burnout or whether it's to take your business to the next level. And seniors, you guys, you wouldn't be here if you didn't know that there was still more to learn. However, you have so much to give, and you have the wisdom of many years of innkeeping. However, it's very possible that you've been doing some of the same things for the same way for many, many years and could be in a rut. So learning from newer innkeepers and the newer technology and the newer things that are here will help you to take your business to the next level. So we all jointly and together, before we even get into the educational sessions, have so much that we can learn and give to each other. But if we want to make that happen, would you share with me, if you believe in the commitment, and say the words again? If it is to be, it's up to me. Gosh, I feel like it was 40 years ago. I have to say that so much. But anyway, the networking doesn't stop with each other. There's a room full of experts in the exhibit hall. Now, we call them vendors. However, they have products and services that are designed just for this industry. And they have a lot of knowledge to share with you. In fact, I forgot when I was going through the different groups, and I did the freshmen, the sophomore, the junior, the seniors. Well, the vendors amongst us, I'm calling you teachers. Because in addition to teaching about products and services, you guys are teaching many of the workshops and classes. To get the most out of this, because you know that vendors want to sell to you. However, they have a lot of knowledge for you. And for instance, I was speaking with Chris from the Laurel Lodge in Harper's Ferry. And he particularly pointed out that he likes to come to the trade show so that he can see what products and services are developed just to help his industry. When you go into the exhibit hall, it's your chance to touch, to feel the robes, the sheets, smell the different bath amenities that you can offer. It's your chance to ask questions and to try things out. This is something you can't do back at the inn. So I really encourage you, keep a list of all of the vendors or go up and down the aisles and make sure you go up to each one, even if you don't think they have something for you, and pointedly ask them, what can you do to help my business? Put them on the spot and ask direct questions. I know you'll get a bit of a sales pitch, but I also think that you will learn something that you didn't know. And when you come to my booth, I hope that you'll come with a question on PR and marketing and give me direct questions. If I don't know, I promise I'll think about it and come back to me. Speaking of questions, I think that whenever you're in a group, especially when there's a lot of information flowing, you oftentimes think that your question might be silly, or you might hope it gets answered in a session, but it doesn't. Well, now the rage is that kids in high school get tutors. And my kids, when they were in high school, they had lots of tutors. Even though they were really good students, they still had tutors, and they cost a lot of money. They really helped them, but they were expensive. You're very lucky here because included in your conference registration is tutoring sessions. You can sign up at the registration desk for one-on-one tutoring with some of the experts, learning about Facebook, Twitter, blogging, SEO, which is search engine optimization, marketing, PR, which is public relations, and so much more. I hope that you guys will take advantage of this and sign up for it. Another thing that, in terms of high school, that kind of falls into the whole conference thing, and a secret that I have to share, is that in my high school, we were a little loosey-goosey, actually, and we were allowed to put together our own schedule. How many of you think I signed up for every math class I could take? No. I signed up for the classes that I was good at. Well, you have the same choices here, which is to create your own schedule. You might be, if I were an innkeeper, I would be tempted to avoid the class on financial record keeping, for example, because I'm more creative. In fact, even in my own business, I avoid QuickBooks. How many people avoid doing their QuickBooks? But anyway, okay. So I would be tempted to avoid the class on financial record keeping, which is probably the one that I should be in if I were an innkeeper. And I'd look forward to going to the one on garnishing guest plates, because that sounds really interesting to me. If you're a numbers guy or gal, there might be some class that you're avoiding. Maybe it's social networking or something like that. So I'm encouraging you to step outside of your comfort zone a little bit, to pick the classes that really will help you to really expand and to build your business, because this is an opportunity to do that here. If you're here with a partner, split up so that you're not both at the same classes, and then compare notes later. And if you're not, find somebody who is going to one of the classes that you're not, and later on compare the notes. So I'm suggesting that you step outside your comfort zone, and yes, that you do some more networking. In high school, and this is relevant, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but when the yearbook came out, I know there were a lot of you that couldn't wait to see how many pictures you were in when the yearbook came out. Well, your guests are no different. They like being in pictures. They're pinning, posting, tweeting, and I think the verb for one of the new apps that's gaining popularity, especially with the younger generation, would be Instagramming. Whoops, I've been having trouble clicking, and now I click too fast. But anyway, Instagramming. And this all ties into the next part of what I'm going to talk about, which is the guest experience. But before I skip over it, even though the slide did, I'm curious, how many people are familiar with Instagram? Okay, some people. How many people use it? Just a couple. Okay. Well, guests are starting to use it, so I want to be sure, and we'll get into it a little bit because it does have to do with the guest experience. So I do want you to see what it looks like and how it works. But I recently read on the Nova Scotia tourism site what I think is a great quote. You guys have probably already read by now, so it's not a secret. A product is what you buy, an experience is what you remember. And I really think that what we're seeing is this is the new trend and change in travel. Not that long ago, during the financial downturn, I do a lot of workshops for innkeepers. This keynote thing isn't really my thing, but workshops. And I worked and talked to innkeepers and were teaching them about how to convey to guests value, 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 the amenities that you offered. It was very important that you stressed how we were different from hotels. Now this all builds on itself. You still want to keep this in your message, but we were stressing the value that guests were getting. But now, when guests are looking where to stay, it's not hard for them to find a hot tub, a jacuzzi, a fireplace, luxury amenities, free wireless internet. You guys have done a terrific job at listening and placing that on your website. Guests are looking for a little bit more now. They're looking for an experience because they're looking for pictures that they can tweet and pin and post and how to make it an experiential getaway. It wasn't that long ago, in the beginning of the year, I was booking a trip with my daughter to go to the Napa Valley. And I chose a place to stay that had a hot air balloon package because I knew that my high school friends, I wanted them to see me sailing over the Napa Valley in a hot air balloon. And I wanted these pictures because in high school, I was one that always had to have 2 feet on the ground. So in thinking about this, you have to realize that the trends are changing, and it's how to make an experiential getaway. So you want to be thinking as you go through the sessions now, what is your story? And adding to that, what is the experience that's being offered? Because experience, really your story is going to be a location plus amenities plus experience, because they're looking for an experiential getaway. A lot of you tell me that you don't create packages or specials because the guest doesn't book the package or special, or they don't book the exact package or special. Many of you in here have told me that, and you're right. I agree with you. However, it is the activities that get the guests' attention, because they'll follow down. They'll start off on the pages of what the packages and specials are, and they'll follow down on the activities, and then you have them thinking about your inn. It can be anything. Maybe you want to, if you have a local winery where you could partner with them and have a private wine tasting for your guests. I think that would be a really cool thing to do. Or if you have a kitchen that's big enough to offer cooking classes, and that's something that you would be good at, it's another thing I would like to do. But maybe food or wine is not your thing, and maybe it could be anything. Maybe it's animals. Maybe you are pet friendly and you want to take that and make that a little bit more creative. In fact, if you're not pet friendly, or if you're not sure if you want to be pet friendly, there's a session on that later today, which you can go to and look at the pros and cons of being pet friendly, because it's definitely a niche. If you want to you can be just simply pet friendly, or you can try and make it experiential. Did you know that there are certified canine massage therapists? Yes. Inns that really want to take pet friendly to the next level and make it special. This could be something that you want to add to it. The whole point is, though, is that you want to keep it simple, and simple is good. So partnering with local businesses is probably the easiest way to do that. You can keep it as simple as, beach passes, ski passes. If there's a playhouse in your area offering tickets. Just remember that the greater the experience, the bigger the hook in terms of getting the guest. So what are some examples of that? Well, this past fall, we took fall foliage, and we put a different trend on that. We did fall foliage from new heights. So innkeepers, that all they did was partner with a local business who could take people on a biplane or zip line to appear in fall foliage. The innkeepers did nothing except for advertise and partner with a local business. Few of them might have wanted to fly in the biplanes or zip line, but they didn't have to. All they had to do was partner with a local business, and then they were featured in publications like USA Today and other publications, because the bigger the hook, the greater the pictures for Facebook and things like that, the greater the experience that they see. So in thinking about everybody wanting to spread their information and have their pictures, another pet peeve that I hear from innkeepers is how rude guests are when they bring the cell phone to the breakfast table. Now, I agree, if they're carrying on a loud conversation or they've totally zoned out because they're texting, that is rude. But do you know some of them might be advertising for you? Does anybody have any idea how they'd be doing it?
Pictures of breakfast.
Exactly. Taking pictures of the breakfast. They're taking pictures of the ambiance. So just because you see a cell phone, it doesn't have to be bad, because what guests are doing is advertising. They're spreading the word about you and your inn, and it's free. So just because they have the cell phone, you don't have to necessarily think that that's exactly what's going on. I'll make sure I stay on track here. Since the dawn of time, what is the best form of, so really, social networking is just that. When someone's spreading the word about your in, it's not your endorsement, it's someone else's. The picture on the top right is from my Facebook page. And this is when I was dropping my daughter off, and I tagged the inn that I stayed at, the William Henry Miller Inn. Another great stay at the William Henry Miller Inn. In tagging them, my friends, family, and followers can click right to the William Henry Miller Inn's page, Facebook page, and see them. But also, these smiling faces of happy guests show up on the William Henry Miller Inn's Facebook page. So allowing your guests to do this, knowing and letting them know how to tag you because you have a Facebook page, is allowing them to do the oldest thing that you've ever wanted from the beginning of time, which is word of mouth endorsements. The lower left, Cheryl, she works with me. I'm not so sure I like this. This is her Twitter page. Back to work. Take me back to my weekend getaway at the Red Rooster Inn with a sad face. Well, working at BnBFinder really isn't that bad. However, I do appreciate the value of weekends and, of course, staying at an inn. And she redeems herself because for those of you who don't know what Instagram looks like, this is her Instagram page, and she's posted a picture of the breakfast that's there. So, especially since I like food, all right, I forgive Cheryl for kind of bitching about being at work on Monday. But getting a little bit off track, does anybody know what the but it's not totally off track, what the 2013 word of the year is?
Selfie.
Very good. Who can explain what a selfie is? Take a picture of yourself. Okay, great. We have somebody here demonstrating. Thank you. In fact, I learned something yesterday in the local U session. I got an idea from Lisa. Oh, I probably can't put it on with my hat. I didn't practice this because I just learned it yesterday. But I'm going to be wearing a sign that I'm available for selfies if anybody would like. Now, she wasn't suggesting that you want to take selfies of me. However, if you like this presentation and you would like to take a selfie and post it to Twitter, I'll give you my Twitter handle, or if you want to put on Instagram, I'll give you my hashtag. She was suggesting that maybe the chef or somebody like that, when people are raving about the food, had a little button for available for selfies. So shows I already have a to-do list, but I guess I didn't practice that. Anyway, selfies are so popular. Everybody takes them, and your guests take them because they love to be in pictures and they love to share them. Even President Obama takes selfies. In fact, until recently, one of the most popular selfies was of President Obama and the British and the Danish prime ministers at Nelson Mandela's memorial service. Did anybody see that? It really made a lot of news. Some people didn't like it, including Michelle Obama. However, to all of those people's relief, that is no longer the most popular selfie. Do you guys know the most popular one now? Absolutely. This fun selfie was tweeted and retweeted more than 2 million times. It actually even brought down Twitter, I think, for half an hour because it was so much onto the servers. Now, the point of this is that selfies are fun and people like doing it. And it's just time to really emphasize that even though social media, social networking can seem very overwhelming to you, to your guests, this is all part of everyday life. And if there's a way that you can figure it in there to get them to be advertising and promoting your inn, it's really terrific. So let's bring it back to how this can help your business. And I had promised that I would show you a little bit. I think Instagram is a little bit like Pinterest was last year. We sort of heard of it. We didn't really know. So there aren't really sessions on it right now. So I thought we would devote a few minutes at the keynote because I'm supposed to inspire and motivate you. So I want you to be thinking about the future because I do think it's here to stay. People of all ages are using it. And I like to look at examples. So I have some examples of how some savvy marketers are already using it. This is the 1888 Hotel. They're in Sydney. And I picked them because they claim to be the first Instagram hotel, and they have some nice examples to look at how they're using Instagram in their marketing. Right when you go to their website, they tell you how to follow us. They give you their Twitter handle as well as their hashtag. I promised everybody in the office I wouldn't say it was pound 1888 hotel and say hashtag. But anyway, so far I haven't slipped, so I thought I'd just get that out there. I'm very proud of myself so far. But what's happening is that when you go to the website, not only do you see how you can, as a guest, post pictures when you're there because they've given you the information as to how to tag them, but if you're thinking of making a reservation, you can be going onto their website or onto your social media sites, and you can see the pictures of the other happy guests that have stayed there. Another thing they've done is create a picture-perfect package. And this sounds really cool, but all they're offering is a night stay, breakfast, wireless internet, but it's marketing. They're telling the guests that this is going to be the perfect Instagram pictures for them to post onto their Instagram page. Great pics win a free night. This might be one of the easier ones if we want to creatively borrow from them. You could do this over any period of time. You could do it for a month, or you could do it a set period of time, where in your newsletter or just in speaking with guests, you could suggest that they post pictures, of course tag you're in, and then the picture that gets the most likes, or whatever you decided to be, maybe it's shares or whatever it is, they would win a prize. That prize can be anything. It could be, you could give away a free night, but it doesn't have to be that big. It could be an upgrade. It's really up to you. How much interaction you think you're going to get is what that prize is worth. One thing I would say is I would make it transferable, because if for any reason that person can't come, encourage them to have someone else come and get the upgrade, because probably their friends tweet, pin, post, Instagram. So you've got another group of people that you know are going to be spreading the word about your inn. Since selfie is the word of the year, they're right on target here. Now this might be a little bit much for some people, but remember, we're talking experience and we're talking creativity. The property has selected a space where they have decided, they've called it the selfie space. And maybe it's a lovely place on the property where they encourage guests to take selfies, because everybody likes a picture of themselves and something to share. Tag the hotel. And then they've set it up so that, because when the hotel is tagged, it creates a feed. They've set it up so that this feed runs on a monitor, which is by where they call it reception. They're a little larger property, by where guests are checking in. So when new guests are checking in, if they're seeing a feed of all these smiling, happy guests, well, that really sets a nice environment or a nice feeling for the new guest who's coming in. Next one is an Insta Walk. Guests always ask you, where should we go? Where can we get the best pictures? So they've simply put together a tour telling the guests, this is the tour, this is the walk that you should take, where you're going to get the best pictures for your Instagram to post to your friends. This one's really creative. $10K for a free stay. They're going to give anybody with 10,000 followers a free night. Now, it doesn't have to be 10,000. It can be any number that you want, but you want it to be a big number, because anybody that has that many followers, it means that they're posting a lot and they're posting good stuff. Otherwise, there's no way that many people would be following them. Who wouldn't want their in this conversation? Okay, so it's creative. Even if nobody takes advantage of it, you've got it up there for them to see. So Instagram, I think, is something, and I use it because it shows that I think it's going to stay around, but it also shows the creativity of what you can do. There's even a restaurant in New York City that they do their entire menu on Instagram, and apparently they're booked out 5 months ahead of time. Now, I'm not suggesting that you guys do this with your breakfast menu, because most of you, A, don't have a restaurant, and B, you definitely don't want to be short order cooks. However, I know that, okay? So please hear that the reason I'm going to show you this short video is because I want you to see, I think it's a good video to see Instagram in action.
There's a lot of things to get to, beginning with Instagram. And if you're on there and you're in a New York restaurant, they want you to hook up. Who doesn't love opening up a menu and seeing a picture of what it's supposed to look like,
Exactly.
and then seeing what you actually get?
E usa a hashtag na busca do Instagram.
Nói về Instagram menu thì nhờ anh Hùng
Promovó menú en Instagram.
publicando fotos de deliciosos platillos en Instagram.
Didn't those pictures look great? Didn't the food look good when it was being shown on Instagram? Didn't it really look like they were having a lot of fun? Okay, and the part that I get the most excited about, because I'm into PR, is I love the international pickup, okay? I mean, this is really creative. And while the video showed just young people, really young people doing it, I use Instagram because a lot of my friends are business professionals and things like that, and they don't want to have Facebook pages and things like that. So they want to have a way, though, that they can share photos without having to reveal a lot about themselves. So my Instagram is with my friends that don't want to be revealing. They have corporate jobs where they can't have personal Facebook pages. So all ages are using Instagram, and we like to share when we have a good time over the weekend, and we share pictures about our kids. So I think that Instagram is really something to think about, but this is not a session on pushing Instagram. It's really to motivate and to inspire you and entertain you, to really be thinking a little bit outside of the box and a little bit outside of your comfort zone as you go forward and look at these different sessions. And just one more thing in terms of social media, because I want to look at it a different way. You guys right now accept cash. You probably accept some credit cards, Visa, MasterCard, maybe Discover, maybe American Express. But what about social currency? Does anyone know what social currency is? It's what? Bitcoins? Well, yeah, they're having a little bit of trouble, but anyway. Social currency is created when the guest spreads the word about your inn, and they get something for it. They have the value of, let's use the example of 10,000 followers. They have a value of 10,000 followers because they can be spreading the word. You giving them a free night or an upgrade is what you're giving them to spend at your inn, and that's the social currency. So guests are leveraging that, and if you present it in such a way, it's a way to encourage guests to be spreading the word about your inn. The same thing would happen in the example where the photo with the most likes. You're encouraging the guests to use their followers to post pictures about your inn, and then the inn that has the most likes would win something, maybe an upgrade or something like that. And that would be an example of what social currency is. So it's another way to look at the form of payment that you can receive, which is a win-win for you. Cash is a good thing, but free advertising is also a good thing, and that's what social currency is. And just a final note on that, I don't want you to take away from this part on social media that Mary says I have to give away a free night or I have to give away an upgrade. That's not the message of this. Every inn is different, every promotion is different. It could be a glass of mimosa or a mimosa at brunch. You know, you decide what it needs to be. Social media doesn't have to take a room out of circulation for you. You figure out what works for you, what's clever, what's creative, and what your guests will respond to. So I have one final point to make in closing. And if that's the person next to you, could you just nudge him or her? Because I think this is an important point. As innkeepers, you guys are multitaskers. You have so much going on. You have so many distractions. As a multitasker myself, I know that I have to constantly stop and ask myself, am I doing the most important thing right now? Another couple of words that seem really, really simple. However, if I had known those words, or probably knew them, but if I had ever followed them in high school, I know I would have had better grades. So as innkeepers, you need to be thinking, or I hope you will be thinking, as you attend each session, as you network with each other, as you talk to each and every vendor, and back at the inn, that you ask yourselves, am I doing the most important thing right now? And if you are committed to follow them, if you'd say them one more time, if it is to be, it's up to me. And there's Frank Tracy. So thank you guys.